Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books and I let you know what I thought about them. We got a little bit of a lighter week, but you know what? We all deserve a lighter week here and there, but there were still some great books, including the pick of the week, because we always start with the pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week, Mothra, Queen of Monsters, issue number 1 from IDW. Now, this is written by Sophie Campbell with artwork from Matt Frank and a little bit of artwork from Sophie Campbell. The artwork is what really put this over the top for the pick of the week. The artwork is awesome. It is gnarly, it is violent, it is brutally violent when it needs to be, and at the same time, it's able to handle the character moments just as well. So this is a Mothra-centric book. No Godzilla to be found, and the story starts with the death of Mothra. Right? Mothra is defeated by a giant ant monster, and the world goes to hell because of it, right? So there's this young woman who resents Mothra, hates Mothra, because her death signified the beginning of the end of civilization, right? But now her and her sister have to embark on this mission to find Mothra's egg, to rebirth Mothra, to bring back happiness, glory, all that kind of stuff, right? It's a very simple story, but it was easy to follow. The characters resonated. It really worked super solidly well. I think Sophie Campbell is a hell of a creator. Her work on things like Turtles, her work on Jim and the Hologram, she was the artist over there along with Kelly Thompson for a really, really great run. So I was really excited to check this one out, and it did not disappoint. In fact, it exceeded my expectations right into the pick of the week category. And it also gets another one. It gets cover of the week. This cover is cover A, and I do believe that this is a Sophie Campbell cover. I believe it is, but I can't quite see where there it is. Nope, it's Matt Frank. Sophie Campbell does the variant cover, which is pretty freaking cool too. But Matt Frank's style kind of works perfectly along with Sophie Campbell. So, cover of the week, pick of the week. I was really surprised by this book, and to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting much out of a Mothra book, but this was really cool, and I think fans of Mothra are really going to like it, because it does allude to a lot of the history of the character throughout the movies. Alright, let's jump over to Marvel. We got Doctor Strange of Asgard, issue number 1. This is part of the One World Under Doom. So, a year ago, at the end of Blood Hunt, Doctor Strange gave his powers of the Sorcerer Supreme to Victor Von Doom to help end the Blood Hunt, right? The vampire reign. Well, Doom didn't give it back. Doom didn't give back the power, so Doom is now the Sorcerer Supreme and the ruler and protector of Earth, and that's what's going on with the One World Under Doom. So what does Doctor Strange do? How is he preparing to start an assault on Doom? He's not. He's running away. He's running away to Asgard. He goes to Asgard in this issue and says, yo, you need a Sorcerer Supreme? You need like a magical guard? I'm willing to do it. It's kind of silly. It's kind of dumb, and it feels like a little bit out of character. Now, maybe there's some kind of bait and switch or something. Maybe there's an ulterior motive for Strange to be in Asgard that is going to help against the fight with Doom, but that's not really presented here in issue number 1. It's presented as if Strange is defeated and decides to go off to Asgard because he needs purpose somewhere else or something like that. I didn't really like that for the character, and the story itself, it's alright. The art's decent enough. It's decent enough. It's good artwork, but it doesn't really quite have a nice flow to it, but neither did the story. This one wasn't super bad. It wasn't like annoyingly bad or anything, but it wasn't great, and it didn't really sell me. So Doctor Strange of Asgard, I don't know. I think it could have been a little bit better. Then we got Star Wars Jedi Knights, issue number 1. I know. I don't read a lot of Star Wars books, but this one's written by Mark Guggenheim, so I wanted to give it a shot. And I'm glad I did, because I rather enjoyed the book. I mean, it wasn't anything to write home about. It wasn't like blow you away, but it was a pretty solid Star Wars book. It takes place in the prequel era, right? Before Phantom Menace. Qui-Gon Jinn is in it. Obi-Wan Kenobi is in it. Mace Windu. The dude with the big head. A bunch of Yoda's in it, you know, a bunch of other those prequel era Jedi are in this book, and it's basically just kind of showing you how they're going to go about stopping a war between these two different civilizations. And I don't know, I kind of liked it. It had a nice flow to it. It had a nice vibe. All the characters kind of seemed like the way they should be. There's a bunch of characters in here that I didn't know who they were, so they may be new or they may be from other books that I haven't checked out. But the action was there, the characterizations was there, and all in all, it's one of the better Star Wars books I've read in several years, probably. So Star Wars Jedi Knights, not too bad. Then we've got Web of Spider-Verse, New Blood, issue number 1. This is a one-shot comic to go along with the Web of Venomverse coming out. So we've got this Spider-Verse versus Venomverse event coming this summer. Am I excited for it? No. I'm over the Spider-Verse stuff. In the comics, the movies are pretty solid. I'm very pumped for that third movie. But in the comics, I'm kind of over the Spider-Verse thing because it's a button that Marvel just keeps pressing over and over and over again. Same thing with the Venomverse, and now it's Spider-Verse versus Venomverse and whatever. So, just like with all of these Spider-Verse events, you get a series of one-shots or a mini-series with a bunch of different stories introducing different iterations of Spider-Man and women from the Spider-Verse. And that's what's going on here. Coming up soon will be the Venomverse one-shot. It's going to do the same thing, but on the Venom side. Apparently there's some entity that is picking a team of spiders, some entity picking a team of Venoms. They're going to put them together in like a contest of champions or something like that. And there's one more role to be filled on each side, so this is somebody, whoever this entity is, looking through the Spider-Verse, finding her new champion, right? So that's what's going on here. You got a Spider-Hulk story in here that was actually pretty decent. I mean, I'm going to tell you this. The stories within this were actually pretty decent. So there's a Spider-Hulk story. Then there is a like vampire Spider-Man story that I really liked and had artwork by Sumit Kumar. Federico Vincentini does a different take on the Miles Morales origin, and I really liked his art there. And so all three of the stories were pretty cool. I liked it. The Miles story, by the way, is he teams up with his uncle, the Prowler, in a Kree-inhabited Earth, right? We are under occupation of the Kree, and it introduces a new version of Miles Morales. Then you have, of course, like I said, the Vampire Spider-Man. I like that. And of course, we all know and love Spider-Hulk. I thought all three of those stories, plus the framing device, were actually pretty interesting. And as eye-rolly of an idea of this Spider-Verse versus Venomverse thing is, this is actually a pretty solid comic. So I liked it. Then we got What If Mickey and Friends Became the Avengers? And I'm going to tell you the same thing I said about what if Donald Duck became Thor? What if Donald Duck became Wolverine? What if Mickey Mouse became Iron Man? What if Minnie became Captain Marvel? What if the Disney characters became the Fantastic Four? Just like all of those books, this is fun. It understands the mission, and it fulfills that mission. It's not trying to do anything groundbreaking. It's just trying to be silly and goofy and reference the original, no pun intended on that one, reference the original Avengers origin, but with the Disney characters, and it does it. So you got a Loki-type character here trying to cause commotion for their cousin Thor, which is Donald Duck, by manipulating Goofy Hulk into forming the Avengers. I mean, it's cute, it's fun, it's charming. I enjoyed it. I think if you got kids that are Marvel fans, kids that are Disney fans, this is definitely something that they might want to check out, and something that I think you could read along with, because even if you like would roll your eyes at this idea like I do, Spider-Verse versus Venomverse, it's pretty well executed for what it is. I mean, it's, like I said, cute, charming, and all in all, just pretty much fun. Then we got the Ultimates here with issue number 10. Dennis Camp's been killing it on this book, and it's like it's just getting better. So Juan Vergrevy's artwork, it's winning me over a little bit. It's not quite 100% there. Maybe the coloring could be a little bit better too. But the art is fine. It gets the job done. The story is where this book really soars and excels. These interpretations of these Avenger characters in this new Ultimate Universe, right? And in this one, we've got the team going against the Red Skull. And the Red Skull is actually an organization now led by the fourth of the Grand Skulls. There's a big reveal at the end of this issue about who the Red Skull is, potentially, and it's pretty earth-shattering for some of our characters. I liked the flow of this story, and it's mostly told through the perspective of Jim Hammond. And that's another thing that writer Dennis Camp's been doing so well in the pages of Ultimates, is telling each story from a different character's perspective, getting into their heads, showing us, telling us how this character works, how their brain works, how it's different from what we've known in the 616 and other Ultimate Universe interpretations and stuff like that. So all in all, I'm really digging the Ultimates. Issue number 10, no exception. I love the update of the Red Skull, and I really like the flow of the story and how we just keep inching closer and closer and closer to the Maker getting out of his somewhat prison, just direct shit all over the place, right? Then we got Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu, issue number 6. A great issue of Moon Knight. In the last issue, Moon Knight decided to do what Moon Knight usually does, and he's got this team of support, right? Tigra, Hunter's Moon, he's got Reese, and he's got the 8-ball dude. He's got all these people, right? He's got all these people, and he, like he typically does, just like in a Batman fashion, I don't need you. I'm going to go do it alone. So he goes to try to take on the new big bad on his own, gets his ass kicked. Gets his ass kicked majorly bad to the point where this dude's about to die, right? So this is mostly about trying to stop Moon Knight from dying, build him back up, and set him up to come back for that final, hopefully, battle against this Asgardian power-infused villain that he's fighting. And it was a really great issue, man. It was a great issue of him, like, regaining trust and learning faith and stuff like that, recognizing his mistakes. So some good character development was here, and it doesn't feel like a wasted issue. You could say that not too much really happened, but a lot happened emotionally for the character, and it really pays off into the end and launching into what's going to be issue number 7. So that was pretty cool. All right. We got an X-Men crossover. It kicks off with Uncanny X-Men issue number 11. I've been reading Uncanny X-Men, and I've been enjoying it. I like what Gail Simone's been doing with this book. I think it's better when David Marquez is on the art. He will be back in the next issue, but we do have a crossover, 7 parts, that's going to go across all of the pretty much ongoing X books, okay? The first 3 chapters are out this week. I already read some of these books, so I've committed to just reading them all. So here we go. X-Man Hunt is about this. Charles Xavier has been captured in a prison ever since the end of the Krakoan era, and he breaks out of prison. He breaks out of prison, and I don't want to explain the reason why, because the reason why he feels the need to break out of prison and go on this new mission is actually rather compelling and interesting, and I don't want to spoil that for you if you're going to read this book. So I liked that. Basically, the way this is set up is Xavier escapes, and each crossover issue is him coming across that team, and he, like, sets up, like, a red herring for them. Like, I need your help to do this, but it's actually an ulterior motive for them to inadvertently help him get something else to help him along on this mission that I don't want to spoil for you. This was a solid issue. It still takes the time to build a little bit of what Gail Simone's been building with Uncanny X-Men, but at the same time drop this Xavier thing. Art was decent. The story was fine. It was all right. I liked it, and like I said, I like the reasoning that compels Xavier to break out of prison. And there's a big exploration throughout all these issues into Xavier's psyche. It works decently here in Uncanny X-Men. Not so well in NYX issue number 9. This one was a little bit too heavy-handed, a little bit too much on the nose with the whole Xavier's evil. And, like, yeah, we get it. Like, yeah, he makes mistakes and stuff like that, but, like, this has been a trend for a long time, but it's definitely been a trend in recent years to really kind of lay into the nefarious nature of Xavier, and I don't know, that kind of pulls something away from the character for me, but we'll see what happens. But in this one, he's up with the people from NYX, and he's, like, manipulating these kids into, like, and the whole narration is all about, like, how much he's a manipulator and how evil he is, and all this kind of stuff. And this one just didn't really quite land for me, and honestly, if you ain't reading this book, and you don't want to follow every single chapter of this, you can kind of skip them. I mean, this is the inciting incident, and then this is just kind of filler a little bit in a way, but it does have one thing that you need to know. But does that justify an NYX book? Because also, it was doing what NYX, I guess, has been doing. It's some kind of Mojo story. I hate Mojo. So I was not excited. Then we got Storm issue number 6. Kind of annoying that Storm, which has been one of Marvel's best books, and out of nowhere went super cosmic in issue number 5 and was amazing, now we got to do a crossover. At least the team here in Storm number 6 does the crossover a little bit better than the previous two. Definitely better than NYX in my opinion. But this is cool. We're still developing what's been established already in this book, including this very cosmic approach to Storm and her power set. And so that's prevalent here. Once again, Xavier shows up. He's lying. He's manipulating. But he's being kind of controlled. He's got a purpose. Nobody really quite gets it. But him and Storm have some really great interactions here. And we get right into the heart of things. And then you got great artwork in this one, too. Is it Luciano Vecchio. The art's really cool. Cyclops and his team shows up, and Storm's like, nope, bruh, you're not going to do it. Great layouts, great dynamic action, and yo, also, maggots in the issue. One of my favorite Nobody Likes X characters, Maggot, is in this issue. And I'm super excited. But there was some really interesting stuff going on. All right, let's jump over to DC, and at DC we got Secret 6, issue number 1. Secret 6 was a book, I guess it's had a few iterations, but I know that in more modernish times, I guess like 20 years ago, to me it's still modern, Gail Simone had a run on Secret 6 that was kind of like a fan favorite, right? And this is kind of bringing back a little bit of that vibe, but for the most part, it doesn't. For the most part, this is a follow-up to the recent Suicide Squad stuff. This is Jonathan Kent dealing with the aftermath of being controlled and manipulated by the Brainiac Queen in the Absolute Power War, Dreamer trying to redeem herself, Jonathan's boyfriend, kind of dealing with his thing, a little bit of a fissure in their relationship. Black Alice, Deadshot and Catman are in it, but they show up at the very, very tail end. That's the connection to the Gail Simone Secret 6, I guess. It was alright. It didn't really do much for me. It was just kind of okay. The art was a little off-kilter, and the story was a little wonky. It didn't really fully pull me in, and I'm not too excited to come back for issue number 2. Then we got Justice League, The Atom Project, issue number 3. I think Ryan Parrott and John Ridley are doing a really great job teaming up on this book. And the artwork by Michael Perkins, I really like it as well. So at the end of Absolute Power, a lot of heroes and villains had lost their powers, and they didn't get them back at the end of Absolute Power, including Captain Atom. So the two Atoms, Ray and Ryan, they are trying to figure out how they can bring the power sets back to these people. And, well, Captain Atom's kind of like their guinea pig. And at a certain point, he gets tired of doing that, goes on the run. He now has the ability to absorb powers from other people or something. So there's some interesting things going on here. And the story is told in 2 different sections. Maybe each writer, does one or the other, but one is set in the past when everything is still hopeful and new, and we're getting those revelations, and then at the same time we're seeing what's happening in the current day when Captain Atom's just going off and they're having to find him and hunt him down. But I like it. I like how it's plugged in and connected to what's going on, building and deepening that mystery, what happened to these powers, what these heroes can do to get them back, but the work it's doing with the character of Captain Atom, I really like. I think it's pretty solid. So Justice League, The Atom Project, I've been liking it so far. Then we got JSA here with issue number 5. This is a book, Jeff Lemire's on this book. At first, the first few issues, 2 or 3 issues, I wasn't really quite sold on it. But issue number 4 started pulling me in. Issue number 5 continues that course of action of pulling me in, getting me interested. This is a big Ragnarok story. It starts with the JSA, the dawn of a new era, and they just get wrecked, and everything is thrown away, and it felt more like the end of a run than the beginning of a run, right? And I felt like it wasn't very new reader friendly. Of course, I know these characters, and now that I've absorbed more into this flow of this story, I'm really digging it. Lots of interesting things are going on, who's that? What they doing? How's that connected? So I like the book. The art's all right. The art could be a little bit better. But all in all, I do like JSA, and I do think it's strengthened. So if you were a little hesitant with issues number 1 and 2, but didn't necessarily fully hate it, you might want to check it out again, because I do think this book has solidified itself. Then we got Batgirl issue number 5. I think Tate Brombaugh and company are doing a fantastic job on this book. Now, this is mostly a issue without dialogue, which is cool and appropriate, but the whole gist of this story is that there is a faction coming after Lady Shiva, coming after her daughter, Cassandra Cain, the Batgirl, And Batgirl's kind of in the midst of all this, and there's a lot of exploration on who Cass is, how she feels about her heritage, who her parents are, how she has changed and learned from what they've taught her, but also what Batman and the Bat family have taught her, and finding her place. I really like the book. It's got great flow to it. It's got great dynamic action. It does not waste its time. It's exploring some interesting and rich themes, and it's spotlighting a character I love, Cassandra Cain. I was there in 1999 in No Man's Land, and I've been a fan of hers ever since. So Batgirl number 5 really is freaking cool. Poison Ivy issue number 31. This book continues to be one of DC's best. Over 30 issues of Poison Ivy, and I am still just as engaged, if not more than I was at the beginning. I love this book, and I love that DC is allowing G. Willow Wilson and the team, and here we have Brian Level on the artwork, and we're understanding more about Pamela's new place in her new mythology, how it connects to the green, how it connects to the gray, all this kind of stuff. We've been telling one big story that keeps developing on top of itself in a very profound and cool way. Really great artwork here. And here's one thing that I've mentioned briefly, but until now I didn't really fully see the book this way, but Poison Ivy's a bit of a horror comic, y'all. And that's kind of freaking cool. And treading the line of good guy or bad guy, it's still Pamela. It's still Poison Ivy. And the flow of the story, and they're picking the perfect artist to complement this more horrific type tone. I'm not saying it's like Tales from the Crypt or Hellboy or anything like that, but it definitely has more of a horror injection than you might think if you're not reading it. Poison Ivy's been one of DC's best ongoing books. And if we want ongoing runs that don't renumber every 5 to 6 issues, read books that are doing it, that are worth reading, like Poison Ivy. Definitely check that out. All right, then we've got the Batman facsimile. They're reissuing all the issues of Hush in facsimile form. This is issue number 612, and I love these foil covers. I'm not the biggest fan of Batman Hush, but I've been picking these up to maybe like sit down and reread them. I don't know. I like the foil covers. I really do. I got all the Crisis ones. I got all the Secret Wars ones. If you re-release major comics with facsimiles with foil covers, I'm gonna read those. I'm gonna buy them at least. I mean, I've already read most of that. All right, let's jump over to Image. And from Image Comics, we have Hyde Street issue number 4 from Ghost Machine, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Ivan Reis. I really liked this issue a lot. Hyde Street's been a pretty solid book, but I haven't really got sucked into it like I do Geiger or Redcoat or Rook or Junkyard Joe or anything like that. But this issue spoke to my soul because it's about Universal monsters for the most part, right? So it's about this actor from back in the 40s, and he's seeing his agent, and his agent's like, I got you a gig. You're going to play the monster in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein's brother. Right? But this dude winds up having this like sad kind of tragic vibe to his life that kind of gets in the way of this performance and turns out leading him into Hyde Street. So this is an origin of one of the characters that populates Hyde Street, and a very interesting character, and he's like stuck in the makeup, and even more so than that, once he gets to Hyde Street, the makeup gets not just permanently affixed to him, but like in a very gnarly, cool way. I don't really want to share too much about that at the end, but really great nods to the original Universal Monsters stuff, including the scene with the girl with the flowers. And I love it. I mean, like, all the movie posters, like, that I have back here, like, it's so cool seeing that stuff. I am a Universal Monster movie nerd, and so I really liked this. I really appreciated it, and I thought it was a great love letter to some of my favorite movies, but at the same time utilizing those movies and those concepts to help build a character and embed it into the concept of Hyde Street in exceptional fashion. So Hyde Street issue number 4, I think it was the best issue of that series yet. Then we've got The Tin Can Society, issue number 6 of 9. So we still have 3 issues to go, but that does not stop us from getting major revelations here in issue number 6. Tin Can Society is basically, what if Iron Man was murdered and all of his friends had to get together and figure out who murdered him, right? And that's kind of been what this book is. And each issue is focused in on a different character, revealing things about the past, giving us more clues about motivations maybe for this person to be a killer and all that. And then here in issue number 6, it all goes out the window. The characters have been built, and now we have a major revelation about what exactly happened. And then after the big revelation, a big what the F moment that's just like, huh? That's going to fuel interest into the final 3 issues of this series. This book's been really good, undersung, underappreciated, though me and the homies over at the monthly comic book review, we've been talking about it every month. What do you think? Are you reading Tin Can Society? Do you think other people should read it? Let us know in the comments down below. Also, from Dark Horse Comics, we have Sister Imperator, issue number 1. This is from the world of Ghost. At first, I thought that meant Ghost like the Adam Hughes character from the 90s. No, it's Ghost the band. I can't say that I'm a fan of Ghost. I've never really super gotten into them. There is that one song, something about a hammer. I love that song. But that's the only one I've heard. That was the one that was on the radio that I've heard a bunch. That's the one I know. I really like that song. Having no knowledge of the band or their lore or their mythology or anything like that, I enjoyed this book. Sister Imperator, I don't know how this character is connected to the band or its lore, but she is a wronged woman who is trying to take care of business. Some tragic stuff happened with her and her family, and it's pretty freaking sad, and it justifies this mission that she's on, trying to find this evil preacher to wreak vengeance on him, because he did some heinous things to her family, including her sisters, her mother, stuff like that, right? I liked the book. I thought it was fine. The art looks great. The story was fine. I enjoyed it. And like I said, I don't know really much anything about the band Ghost. So if you're a Ghost fan, you definitely want to check it out. But if you just like cool comics, check it out as well. Also, it's printed on like a newsprinty type comic paper. And that's really cool. It's still a $5 comic though. But I kind of like that. And it gives it the smell of the week because it smells like paper. Like actual paper. No gloss finish. No bells and whistles. Just paper that the color can sink in on. And honestly, the coloring, they could have brightened it up a little bit because on glossy paper it would come through a little bit more. But it still works. And it was not a burden to read at all. I enjoyed this book. I thought it was cool. It's a cool, interesting character. All right. Also from Dark Horse, we have Usagi Yojimbo, 10,000 Plums, issue number 1 of 5. The next story of Usagi Yojimbo. Stan Sakai's been doing this book for over 40 years. Let's give him his plum roses because this dude deserves it. He's been doing this same book, writing, illustrating, lettering, this whole entire time. He's never stopped. And the book is still great. This was a great issue. If you've never read Usagi Yojimbo before, you could go and get that nice Fantagraphic hardcover set that has all the original Fantagraphic stuff, right? All the original stuff from Fantagraphics. It wasn't all published from Fantagraphics. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Or then you can get all the Dark Horse stuff, or you could even start at the Dark Horse stuff, or the IDW stuff, or now back at Dark Horse. Or you could just pick up this issue. Just pick up this issue. That's how I got into Usagi Yojimbo. I got into Usagi Yojimbo late 90s, early 2000s, and it was hard to get all the trades and put them all in order or whatever, but I just started reading the book, and ever since, I've just really loved this character. And then I got out of the character for a little bit, and then a few years ago, I decided to jump right back in and felt like I didn't miss a beat. Great samurai tales, even though they're rabbits and rhinos and cats and all that kind of stuff. Don't worry about it. But Usagi and his cousin are running around. Jin's involved right now, and if you're a fan of Usagi, you love it when Jin's involved. And then they wind up in this place that's known for their plum trees and their magical healing properties. And there's a woman, it really starts kind of sad. Her kid's like dying. She needs some medicine. She goes to this village and everybody's like being very greedy and not wanting to help her. And then bad stuff starts happening to this village. Usagi and his cousin and Jin are right there in the middle of it. And that's going to propel the series forward. I love Usagi Yojimbo. One of the best, one of the masters of this industry, still doing what he does and doing it supremely well. Usagi Yojimbo, 10,000 Plums, issue number 1. All right, from Mad Cave, we've got Blade Forger, issue number 1. Really cool gatefold cover. This is from the Miranda brothers. They did a book. Was it called We Live or something like that? It was at Aftershock. It started off really strong, but then it just kind of lost interest. I just kind of lost interest in it. Blade Forger is interesting. It's about this dude who is a blade forger. So he's got this blade, he's got a sword, and this world, there's like a tournament every so often, and whoever wins the tournament becomes the emperor. So it tells the story of him becoming the emperor, and then it's him later on in life, and he gets a prophecy that things are doomed and somebody's going to take over and bring this kingdom to ruin or something like that. It was interesting enough. There's a lot of world building. There's some decent action. It didn't quite fully come in. Like, it just didn't quite have the punch that I think it wanted to have. It's got some great ideas. It's got some interesting characters. The art's solid. The way the story is told is decent enough, but it's just missing something. Issue number 1 was missing something. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it never felt exciting. It kind of felt a little dull at times, even though it was still interesting. Does that make sense? So, Blade Forger, I don't know. That's a wait and see for me. All right, here are 2 that came out last week, but Diamond's doing what Diamond does. So there may be some stuff from Boom, Dynamite. I know there's some stuff from Dynamite. There's a lot of stuff from Dynamite this week. Space Ghost. I have read that Space Ghost issue, and it's freaking awesome. Thundercats, Vampirella, Powerpuff Girls, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck. A lot of DuckTales books, but I'll talk about them. Not a lot of Dynamite books, but I'll talk about them when I have them in hand next week. But from last week, Uncanny Valley issue number 8. What Tony Fleece and David Wachter are doing here is so much freaking fun. It's about a kid who's part cartoon, part real. He's now the chosen one who's going to bring balance to the two sides, right? And he's in the cartoon land, and we get introduced to their versions of the Smurfs. I really like how Tony is playing around with typical cartoon tropes and memories that we would have, but making them fit in this world, and at the same time telling a really solid and emotionally resonant story about family, loss, regret, guilt, and love. Have so much fun with this book. David Wachter's artwork, able to blend a realistic style and the animated style so perfectly together. Uncanny Valley came out last week. You'll probably see it in your shop this week because Diamond's doing what Diamond's doing. Also from last week, what I finally got a chance to read, The Savage Sword of Conan issue number 7. So glad this book is no longer just a 6-issue miniseries. It's been prolonged to at least 12. This book just needs to keep going. It's one of the ones that I buy and I keep. Like, a lot of these books I read, I take them back to the shop. This one, I keep, because this is something I want to go back to. It brings me back to my childhood, sneaking into my dad's closet to grab his Savage Sword of Conan books. But we have a special treat, especially for old school Conan fans, because, first of all, you got Roberto De La Torre on the artwork, and he is, like John Buscema, the second coming, right? And it is amazing. The use of black, the weight of the lines, the composition, the flow of the story, the way it's told. It is freaking awesome. And it is exactly what you expect and want from a Conan story. Or at least in my eyes, really cool gnarly stuff, supernatural stuff, savage stuff. But this is written by Roy Thomas. It's written by Roy Thomas. And you know a lot of people, Roy Thomas, his heyday was like the 70s, right? Especially when he was doing Conan originally. He's the guy that like brought Conan into Marvel, right? But like, usually when a writer like from that long ago comes back on, you can tell they're a little bit rusty. Not so with Roy Thomas. This dude seems like he was just born and bred to tell Conan stories, and the Conan story was great. Then you got a story back here that is by Patch Zurcher, but he doesn't do the art because he's working on his new Solomon Kane story, but Juan Alberto Hernandez does the art. It's a Breckenridge Elkins story. I'm not familiar with that character. I'm assuming he's another Howard character, but I enjoyed that. In particular, I really liked the art on that book, and the art in every issue of Savage Sword of Conan has been stellar, and one of the reasons why I keep these in my collection. So I really liked it. Another solid issue of Savage Sword of Conan. All right, so that's what I read this week. That's what I thought. That's what I'm digging. What are you reading? What are you thinking? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. And to recap real quick, Savage Sword of Conan came out last week, but it was awesome. Roy Thomas and De La Torre on the book together. It's like old school times all again. Uncanny Valley continues to be absolutely amazing. Blade Forger was missing something. We'll see what happens with issue number 2. Usagi Yojimbo 10,000 Plums was as good as Usagi has always been, which is freaking great. Sister Imperator. I don't know anything about Ghost the Band. Do you? Doesn't matter. This was still a cool book, and it gets the smell of the week. Tin Can Society had a lot of revelations and a lot of what the F moments. Really exciting issue if you've been following that story. Hyde Street, best issue of the story yet, with a lot of throwbacks to classic Universal monster movies. Batman Hush in facsimile form. I love it when they do that stuff. Poison Ivy is one of DC's best ongoing books. You need to read it. Batgirl is doing an exceptional job with the character of Cassandra Cain. JSA is really pulling me in now. What started off a bit rushed and frantic is now exciting and kinetic to me. Justice League The Atom Project, really loving what's being explored in the pages there. Secret Six didn't really quite work for me, but if you were following Suicide Squad, if you're a Jonathan Kent fan, if you're that big of a fan of Catman and Deadshot, definitely check it out. Then we got X-Man Hunt. Skippable if you're not reading these books already, but Uncanny X-Men was solid. NYX, not so much, but Storm was great. And if you haven't been reading Storm, that's one of Marvel's best books right now. Taking unexpected twists and turns that are daring and bold with that character, and I applaud. Really good stuff. Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu, issue number 6, another solid issue. Ultimates number 10. Who are the Ultimate Red Skulls? What are their connections to the Ultimates? You find out in this issue, and it's pretty freaking wild. What if Mickey and friends became the Avengers? What if you read a comic book that was just cute, charming, and could be enjoyed by any fan of Disney and Marvel? That's what this is. I have a lot of fun with it. Web of the Spider-Verse, New Blood, Spider-Verse again, Eye Roll. Book itself, actually pretty cool. Some solid art throughout it, too. Star Wars Jedi Knights was actually interesting and fun. I enjoyed it. Prequel era Jedi Gold. It's like, this is what we wanted from the prequel eras. Oh, it's a really cool cover, too. I didn't realize that it was a wraparound cover. That's pretty freaking awesome. Doctor Strange of Asgard, though. Doctor Strange tucking his tail and running away 8 months after Doom takes his power. Like, I don't know. It was just a little whack. Didn't really quite work for me. Mothra, Queen of the Monsters, though. Cover of the week from the artist, Matt Frank. And just a really, really solid kaiju book with a human element that wasn't annoying. I really liked this book. The art was exceptional. The storytelling was exceptional. The emotional beats were really perfectly there. And I loved it. I thought it was a really solid book. I never thought I'd have a Mothra book as my pick of the week, but here we are. Never thought John Cena would turn heel again. Yet here we are. All right. Anyway, there you go. That's what I read. That's what I think. That's what I'm digging. What are you reading? What are you thinking? What are you digging? I already said that. I kind of messed it up, didn't I? Well, that's all right. That's how we do it here. Anyway, thank you so much for checking out the video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Join us over at patreon.com/PCP if you want to help support the channel. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop. Boom. And if you ain't down with PCPX, I got 2 words for you. You can't see me, bitches. Come on.